Live from Johnny's Tavern in West Lawrence, this is Hawk Talk with Bill Self on the Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. In the next hour, Coach Self will break down your Jayhawks and take your questions at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-HAWK. Hawk Talk with Bill Self is presented by Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. Capital Federal Savings, celebrating 125 years. By Johnny's Tavern, serving up tradition since 1953 in the Lawrence and Kansas City area. And by Intrust Bank, proud supporter of Kansas athletics. Now, alongside Coach Self, here's your host, the voice of the Jayhawks, Brian Haney.
Good evening and welcome into Hawk Talk, coming at you live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence, 6th and Wakarusa here in Lawrence. Coach Bill Self is on his way, and for the next 60 minutes, we'll be talking about your number one ranked Kansas men's basketball team. How about that? Jayhawks 8-0 after a big win over New Mexico State, 63-60 on Saturday in Kansas City at the Sprint Center. 6 of KU's 8 wins to start the year have come against projected NCAA tournament teams. And who knows, by the end of the year, they might all be in the big dance. But it's been a tough schedule to this point. They've had to grind out some victories, but they found a way each and every time. And they opened the week one of just 9 remaining undefeateds in America, and now 8-0 on the season and back atop the polls. So we'll spend some time talking about the road to 8-0. We'll preview a big matchup coming up on Saturday versus number 17 ranked Villanova, who's off to an 8-2 start. Rematch of last year's Final Four game, although obviously the teams look much different, with Villanova losing much of their starting lineup, and the same true with Kansas with no Devontae, Svi, or Malik. But we look forward to that one, and we'll spend a lot of time on tonight's show talking about that. Plus, we invite your phone calls. If you want to dial us up, you can call us up at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. You can also submit your questions and comments for Coach Self anytime during the week online at KUathletics.com or on Facebook or Twitter. As always, we like to reward the folks that come out here to Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. So we'll take a good look at this healthy stack of audience questions tonight, and the top question asker in-house goes home with a 2-night stay at the Oriad Hotel. That's a $500 prize for folks that come out and join us in person each and every week here at Hawk Talk. Speaking of Johnny's Tavern, there's a new page on their website devoted to Hawk Talk. If you log on to johnnystavern.com/Hawk Talk, all one word, you can check out the latest schedule for upcoming episodes of Hawk Talk and how you can interact with the show. A programming note, our program next week has moved from Wednesday to Monday to accommodate some schedule collidings there, including women's basketball on that particular night. So Monday night next week will be our next show. And if you want to come out and watch KU Villanova this Saturday, they'll be opening their doors early here at Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence at 10:30. So you can make your way in for that 11 o'clock tip time. Number 1 versus number 17. Kansas already has 3 wins over teams that started the preseason in the AP Top 25. Here's a chance at a 4th, and we'll talk to Coach about some of the key matchups within that one coming up here in just a bit. The head Hawk, Jeff Long, has made his way onto the premise, so everybody's coming out here tonight. We'll have our Hall of Fame head coach, our athletic director, a lot of good stuff going on out here at Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. You know, and looking back at that game on Saturday, obviously it was neck and neck down the stretch after we saw New Mexico State, the team picked to win the WAC, mind you, lead for much of the second half. But Dedrick Lawson really took over down the stretch. He scores KU's last 14 points in this one to finish with his 5th double-double on the early season. Winds up with a couple of 20-point games on the week and missed a double-double on Tuesday versus Wofford by just 2 rebounds. He continues to be a double-double machine after 36 of them in 2 seasons at Memphis. And even though he turned in a great week of scoring the ball and the 20 and 10-point performance versus New Mexico State, not enough to win him a 3rd Big 12 Player of the Week honor. For the first time all season, someone other than a Jayhawk won Big 12 Player of the Week this week, as Kansas had swept the award over the entire first month of the season. So we'll talk about Dedrick. We'll talk about filling in without Udoka Azubuike, who obviously went down with that ankle injury versus Wofford, and what it's going to look like the next couple of weeks without Doak. Coach is on his way. When we come back, we'll dive into the week ahead for Kansas. It's finals week, obviously. The players have their focus on the books and the ball as they get closer to Saturday and Villanova coming to town. More coming up from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence, 6th and Wakarusa, right here on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
My dad was laid off when I was young. It's helped me manage my money better, save it for college.
I don't want to leave my family like in debt or have any financial issues.
Then we started getting into money, and that's when you realize, like, this makes the world go round.
You want to start saving money now and grow it.
I will be the generation.
I will be the generation
That is socially and financially aware and uses technology to keep us connected.
that makes college affordable for everyone.
that takes a stand for what I believe in.
When we were caregiving for Grandma and Grandpa in their room, they wanted a certain temperature, and you could regulate and keep their temperature in that room instead of all of us sweating bullets in the house.
Kate's servicemen really understood our needs. We spoke to them about the grandparents' room. They wanted that one room very, very warm, and they were able to accomplish that. We know when we walk in the door, the temperature's going to be right where we like it. So it's been wonderful having Kate's heating and cooling. We love it.
Diagnostic Imaging Centers has always been at the forefront of new technology, delivering innovative solutions to patients for more than 50 years, right here in Kansas City. From the bumps and bruises of childhood to the joys of starting your very own family and the peace of mind you get from a routine screening, Diagnostic Imaging Centers is building the future so you can focus on yours.
Here in Kansas, we're blessed with an abundance of oil and natural gas energy, as well as many other natural resources. Some folks say that producing oil and natural gas harms our farms and ranches.
The truth is, oil and gas leasing and production are vital to sustaining Kansas farms and ranches from one generation to the next. We work together, and over the past 40 years, there has not been a single instance of groundwater pollution from hydraulic fracturing or injection wells in Kansas by our industry. Get the facts at kansasstrong.com.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
Dotson throws off to Charlie Moore between the rings. He steps through, goes up on the left hand like a wizard, and spins it in off the backboard. What a start for Charlie Moore. Highlights from Saturday's win over New Mexico State at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. Welcome back to Hawk Talk. We're coming at you live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. Don't miss Jayhawk coverage on Xfinity X1, channel 258. This week, it's KU men's basketball on Saturday versus Villanova. Jayhawk Game Day Live starts at 10:30. The tip-off at 11, the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. Well, Coach Bill Self is en route. Ran into a little bit of traffic, so we got the head Hawk, Jeff Long, to fill some time with us up here. You just had a chance to see the first Jayhawk shootout of your Kansas tenure as AD. Great atmosphere over there in Kansas City, where so many of our Jayhawk fans reside. What'd you think of the Jayhawks?
I'm going to take advantage of the coach not being here. I thought we started out playing a little slow. I thought we should get in there. We weren't feeding it inside like I like us to, and then kicking it back out. But I think we're going to get better there. Wait a minute. All right, let's get back to what I do. Let's get back to what I do for a living.
That sounded like great coach speak to me.
If we had Doak, we'd kick it inside more. That's all.
And hopefully he'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Sure
but great to see this Kansas team rally back each and every time, finding a way. There's an adage out there that when it comes to winning games in the second half, that's coaching. Yeah. Late game scenarios, when you come out on top more times than not, that's coaching. And obviously, we got a Hall of Famer. We not only have the #1 team in the country, we feel like we have the #1 coach in the country. Am I right?
No question. No question. I know Coach Self doesn't like being ranked number one, but I'm just telling you the athletic director does, and I know you do. So I think we'll take all this number one we can get for as long as we can keep it, all right?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've been impressed with in the first 4 months of your tenure, not only are you going out there and hiring some of the best help for Kansas athletics we can find, both in terms of coaches and support staff, but you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves, put on a hard hat, and help with the demolition. Tell me what's going on at Horse right now.
Well, you know, we had to get Horse torn down, you know, and they were a little light in staff. So I said, I'll come out there and run a track hoe or back hoe, whatever that was, and I just started ripping things down. So it got down quick. You noticed that, didn't you? I don't know if you followed the pictures, but no, we're excited to move forward with that project. Yep. You know, it continues, and, you know, our volleyball program has been so outstanding here. And you know what? It was time for a new venue. It's going to be bigger, better, nicer. Our fans are going to enjoy that atmosphere. And the cool thing is it's going to tie into Allen Fieldhouse as well. So it'll provide us some areas where our fans to have a little more food and drink if they want that prior to a men's basketball game. So it'll be a real nice connection between those two venues.
Absolutely. Ray Bouchard's built a contending program every season in the league and nationally. Now we'll have facilities that can compete as well, doubling our seating capacity to 3,000 there at the new Horse Center coming up by next season. So we mentioned men's basketball number one in the country. Up until mid last week, the women were also undefeated. Kansas was the only school in America as of middle of last week that was still undefeated in basketball in both sports. How about that?
Yeah. You know, the team went up, the girls went up to Coach Snyder, and the team went up to Nebraska, and you know, I didn't see the game, but I read the box score. They were not shooting very well. And then they came back here against Grambling State and just shot the lights out of it. So, you know what? We're going to see good things and real good things out of that team as they develop and as they move into the Big 12 season. Brendan has really done a good job of bringing this program along, and I think we'll see very good things this season. We're
talking with Jeff Long, the athletics director at the University of Kansas. You've been very busy in hiring Les Miles to make us, at the time, the only school in the country with 2 national championship-winning coaches in football and men's basketball. Carolina joined the party late. They usually do. Yes. But they hired Mac Brown, obviously. But at the time, we were the only school to have that going in both sports.
Well, hey, Les's national championship is more recent than Coach Brown. So
good point.
I chalk that up for the Jayhawks.
I like that. Very well said. But he's been busy in adding to his staff ever since, and obviously you oversee that and are trying to get him the resources to hire the best possible coaches. Give us an update on how that's coming along.
Well, you know, Coach has been very deliberate the way he sought out his assistant coaches, and you know, staff is very, very important, particularly in football. And you know what, the world has gotten very complicated when it comes to coaches and their contracts and their salaries. So it's not just as easy as it once was to just go hire a coach. Now you've got to deal with their agents, and you got to deal with contracts, and they're getting far more sophisticated. So it takes a little time, but we're really excited to get the 2 coordinators in, and now the rest of that staff will fill out very quickly because I think Coach Miles is smart. He wants those 2 coordinators to have say in the assistants that he brings on board on those sides of the ball. So I think we've got quality men, and I think that our student athletes will really enjoy playing and working with these coaches.
And I'm going to talk to you more about coaches Elliott and Lindsay on Saturday when you join us as part of our network broadcast for men's basketball versus Villanova. Why don't we close right there? You've been inside the fog, obviously, at Allen Fieldhouse, the mecca of college hoops. You've seen some big wins already, but I think the atmosphere on Saturday is going to be a little bit different. We'll be ratcheted up a little bit.
No question. You know, I told you all before when I was in here that you know, I was amazed at the first exhibition game I walked into, and it sold out, and the loudness, and I can only imagine what it's going to be like on Saturday against Villanova. And you know what? I don't even think the 11 a.m. start time is going to, preclude us from being loud in that arena, or in our field house. And I know students are staying over. You know, exams will be over by Saturday, but they're staying around, and they're going to be packed in there. So I'm excited to see that.
Absolutely. And Coach has been adjusting the practice schedule to practice earlier in the morning so that their body clocks are ready for Saturday. We'll have to talk to him about that as well.
You know, I got criticized when I was on the playoff committee for using body clocks, so I'm glad to hear you use it because I think it's a real thing. So.
I think it is, absolutely. Jeff, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give it up for Jeff Long,
Thanks
everybody.
for coming out.
our athletics director here at the University of Kansas. When we come back, we'll have Coach Self with us. If you want to get in on the conversation, dial us up at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. A preview of Kansas and Villanova coming up next. And since it's finals week, maybe Coach can pass out some grades as well on this 8-0 start for his basketball team. That's straight ahead on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. Two now, a steal for Charlie Moore. Moore going the full 94 feet to Garrett, and the right hand tomahawk jam set up on a behind-the-back feed from Charlie Moore. Good minutes to start the game out of Charlie Moore the other night. Your Jayhawks go on to win it 63-60. Now 8-0 on the season and back to number 1 in the national rankings. Coach, welcome to the show. Congrats on another win. How are you?
I'm fine. Living life on the edge. So fine. We certainly made the games more interesting than what I would have liked on a few occasions, but the guys found a way to pull them out.
No doubt. And 6 games in which you've come back from down 7 in the second half. What does that do from a positive standpoint in testing your team, facing some adversity early in the season?
I think it's a positive. I think you could also make a real strong case that guys would probably like it more and probably draw more confidence from not being in those situations too. I think it's good to be in the situation some. I don't think we should do it every game. But there are some good things you can draw from it. The other day against New Mexico State, we were really fortunate. I thought they were better than us after the first 5 minutes. They were certainly a better team than us. But we were able to get Diedrich going at the right time, and then was able to pull it out in the end, and really made some good plays to do so. But we're going to be a team. I hate to say this, but we're going to be a team that labors offensively and inconsistent. If you take out your best low post scorer and then you don't make shots around it, it kind of gives you some limited options of how to score the ball unless it's in transition. And so certainly I it would be nice if we can become more consistent on that end, and then defensively we need to be good. This team is such a better defensive team potentially than last year's team. Last year's team wasn't a very good defensive team, but this team can be better defensively, but it'll never be as fluid offensively as what last year's team was, just because last year's team, had 4 guys around the post that could always stretch it, and we'll labor. We knew that going in, this year, so we got to figure out a way to make sure we do other things better than last year's team, and i.e. rebounding, offensive rebounding, steal some points that way, and certainly score around the basket a little bit more.
If you want to join in on the conversation, you can call Coach at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. You mentioned that on Saturday you really felt like 5 minutes in, New Mexico State was looking like the better team. 99 times
after 5 minutes in.
Yeah. 99 times out of 100, you're going to get the other team's best shot because you're Kansas. You've got a bullseye on your back now, an even bigger one as the number 1 ranked team. From a coaching perspective, how challenging is it to get your kids up at a comparable level, knowing that across the way they're going to be as geeked as they are all season to take on Kansas? How do you keep your kids as dialed up?
I think that's a pretty difficult thing to do at times, especially playing in Kansas City. And this is not a knock to Kansas City, but it doesn't have the same energy in December as it does in March, and certainly the fans don't have the same energy as they do in March, and there's very few students there and things like that. Although from a number standpoint, we had a great crowd on Saturday. But I do think that's a factor. But I also think this. I never quite bought into a lot of things. I don't understand football very well, but when they say, well, a team came out dead on Saturday, well, they're only playing 1 game a week. You would think that why would we be ever flat? Although it is human nature and those things happen. That's why upsets occur. And certainly it can happen in basketball. But if guys love playing the game so much, they should play the game with energy. And the really good teams that are experienced and kind of get it, they'll use those moments as moments to kind of play games against themselves on this is what we really need to do tonight. This is how we need to get better. This is what we're going to focus in on, and really try to create a game within a game on, hey, we are not giving up this. And I don't think that we're quite there yet in some ways. In a lot of ways we've done really well this year, obviously. We got 3 top 25 wins, 2 top 10 wins, and our non-conference schedule still has 2 more obvious ranked teams on it. So our schedule's been a monster. But I still think, and I think all fans that watch us would agree, that we haven't clicked yet. And I didn't expect us to with 2 young guards early on. I probably didn't expect us to be as good in close game situations as we are right now, so that's a positive, but there's a lot of things that we can get a lot better at, and that's what's exciting, because I don't even think we've scratched what we can be.
No doubt. 8-0 right now, and yet still a lot of room for growth.
A lot of room for growth,
and a lot of room for some personnel additions eventually when Silvio gets back, when Udoka gets healthy.
Yeah, we're hopeful. We're hopeful on both of those sooner rather than later. Of course, we don't have any inside scoop really on either one of them. But certainly, you would think that maybe we'll know something on Silvio, at least in the sometime relatively soon. You would think that, and then but I have no inside scoop on that. And Doak, the good thing about Doak's ankle is structurally it's okay. I mean he's hurt though. Structurally it's okay, and what he's got to do is he's got to put himself in a position where he can come back as quickly as possible. And it's not going to be, obviously, this weekend, and who knows if it could even be next weekend. But he's looking at probably being, when I say 100%, I mean talking about conditioning and rhythm and that kind of stuff. We are probably looking, to the first of the year before that can probably happen.
I know at practice late last week you had him sitting on a stool just working on the follow-through from about 5 feet. That was Thursday. Has he progressed to being able to put weight on it as of Tuesday, 1 week removed?
I think he can put some on it. The swelling is still there, but it's gone down a tremendous amount. So, he can put some weight on it. He can walk on it in limited capacity and things like that. But that's part of the rehab process, is to walk on it. I think it's real difficult, with with anybody that has a surgery, and as soon as you have a surgery, they want to get you up and start rehabbing immediately. Well, it's sore. Well, that's still part of the rehab, and he's hurt. He's sore. There's no hurting's probably too strong, but he's really, really sore. But he's got to fight through some things, and hopefully, if he has a great physical therapy or rehab type sessions, and then maybe come back a week earlier. But it's not going to be one that just because you try hard, you're going to come back. And he's trying right now, but I still think he's a ways away before we can really get into the serious rehab, because he's reluctant to put pressure on it.
Is it tougher as a big man carrying around 270, 280 pounds with more weight on an ankle like that, or inherently is his ankle thicker, stronger to begin with?
Well, I didn't quite get up to 270, but I know that I wouldn't want to walk around on an ankle the size of his, at whatever weight I peaked out at. But I do think it would be more difficult, obviously, for a heavy guy.
We appreciate the update. Hey, you can jump in on the conversation if you want to call us up, 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. Or submit your questions online for Coach at KUathletics.com. We're at Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence, 6th and Wakarusa. And for great local sports bars in the Kansas City area, visit one of Johnny's Tavern's 10 area locations. Hawk Talk is sponsored by Delta Dental of Kansas. Protect your healthy smile. Learn more about individual and family plans at deltadentalks.com. More coming up on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
Diagnostic Imaging Centers has always been at the forefront of new technology, delivering innovative solutions to patients for more than 50 years, right here in Kansas City. From the bumps and bruises of childhood to the joys of starting your very own family, and the peace of mind you get from a routine screening. Diagnostic Imaging Centers is building the future so you can focus on yours.
So I got my first account when I was 16.
I got my first banking account when I got my first job, so when I was 14. So when I finally opened all my accounts, it was just such a relief.
At the end of the day, I feel kind of like good when I go to the bank.
What do you save your money for?
College. I will be the generation.
I will be the generation
that is socially and financially aware and uses technology to keep us connected.
That makes college affordable for everyone.
That takes a stand for what I believe in.
A smile, such a simple gesture, an effortless contraction of muscles, a flash of teeth. Healthy smiles have the power to spread joy, courage, and love. When you smile, it transforms you and the world around you. So if you feel the urge, go ahead and use that simple gesture to spread joy. Keep your smile healthy and strong. Choose Delta Dental for your individual or family plan, protecting more smiles than anyone.
Hello, Kansas. We're your energy industry. In the past, we've shown you beautiful slow-motion images of gorgeous Kansas sunsets, basketball games, and other images that promote our industry. But right now, it's important that you know the facts.
Like the fact that during the past 40 years, there has not been a single instance of groundwater pollution from hydraulic fracturing or injection wells in Kansas by our industry. We respect our state and its natural resources. Get the facts at kansasstrong.com.
Did you get your new Truity Visa card yet? You'll save money with 1.99 APR for 15 months. That's right, 1.99 APR with any new Truity Visa card. This rate's good on all purchases and cash advances for the first 15 months. What are you waiting for? Start saving money today. TruityCU.org/credit cards. With approved credit, come in or go online for details.
Vic open for three. Cox fires and connects. A huge three-pointer going down from the wing, and KU down just two as the crowd comes alive. Big shot right there by LeGerald Vick on Saturday. The Jayhawks go on to win it 63-60. LeGerald finishes with 5 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists. You can watch the telecast replay of Coach Bill Self's Hawk Talk show on 38 The Spot, Spectrum Sports, Cox Cable, Midcoast Sports Network, ESPN Plus, and others across the state. Check your local listings for availability, and for TV times, visit kuathletics.com/TV. Well, speaking of LeGerald Vick, we'll take our first audience question. Earlier we had an audience member chiming in on what a hot start he got off to, and then obviously had a rough week last week, and they were wondering what contributed to that. It was Bud that asked the question, and then how he's done since.
He's done okay. He got off to such a great start for us, and was, not the best player on our team. He's one of the best players in the country. For that 5-game stretch, without question, he was on fire, and playing well, and on both ends, and it's been well documented. He overslept and came 20 minutes late to a shoot around and didn't start. Well, that particular game, his attitude was good, but that particular game, he goes over, and we were actually better. During a stretch where we go on a 27-0 run, he wasn't a part of that. So I think that was probably good for him to see, and now it doesn't take away from him performing well and being one of our best players, but not that day. And then we had a little hiccup after that, and he made a couple of big plays for us in the New Mexico State game, but probably wasn't as active and as engaged as what he probably would have been if he hadn't had a hiccup. So we're hoping that he's had a really good attitude, and he's tried really hard, but we're hoping that he can get back to where he was when his head was right. And of course the basket looked really large to him, and we think he can. There's no reason why he can't.
Probably a tough question to answer, but what is the key when every kid's different in their mental makeup of coaching a guy up so that one bad day mentally doesn't turn into two and kind of snowball into a full week?
Well, we've talked about that. It's how do you spin a negative into a positive? How do you take a negative and make it less of a negative? You certainly do not want it to compound, and I think all guys are different in that way. But the bottom line is it's December, and we got a long season ahead of us, and so I would have a hard time not treating everybody the exact same way, regardless of their makeup or regardless of how they handle situations, because you're trying to win the war, so to speak, and not just the battle. Right. So winning over time would be handling it the right way. And I'm not saying we always handle it the right way. I'm not trying to imply that at all. But I don't think that you can, just because a guy's playing well, you can cut him slack. He needs to do what everybody else does, and he will.
Sure.
But certainly, he didn't have a great week, but that was last week.
Exactly. Big opportunity awaits on Saturday. We're going to talk about that Villanova game here in just a bit. Bud, thanks for the question. Next in-house audience question comes from Sue. She says, Coach, in one word, please, describe our team at this juncture in the season. One word.
Frustrating. Would probably be a good word.
And yet they're 8-0 and number 1 in the country. We're pretty spoiled, aren't we?
But that's not how you should look at it. You should look at it based on, I hate to say this, but you can leave out of practice a lot happier if you're 6-2 some days than 8-0. Because you see that they're trying to do what the big picture is all about. Sure. There's some games that you could lose, and you watch the tape and say, well, they did exactly what I want them to do. It's my fault. There's no question. We just didn't make shots, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that, or I told them to guard it this way, and they exposed us when we guarded it that way. That's how you should study tape and watch it. The thing that is frustrating sometimes is because the reason that we are, probably not is the reason we're inconsistent so far is because of intangible things that I think that we can control and do a better job of, and I think a lot of that is youth. You can talk. We have one senior on our team but even the mentality is probably younger than what the actual age is, and we need to grow up in some areas and become more mature. But we'll do that as the season progresses. But certainly, you'd like to push the guys to the point where going into conference play, you feel totally comfortable on how we're going to play, and they have confidence in how we're going to play, rather than trying to tinker and change and figure things out as we go. We're far enough along that we should be fairly set in our ways on what really works, and there's some things that maybe we aren't quite as set on, and a lot of that's the coach's responsibilities to get the guys to understand what really wins and important, and I don't think we've totally bought into that yet. I don't think we're awful at it, don't get me wrong, but I think to be an elite team, we've got to certainly improve in those areas.
Good answer, Sue. Great question. I love that. You mentioned youth, and obviously super young in the backcourt, but if there's one guy that, as we pass out grades during finals week, would be getting high marks across the board, I would think it's Devon Dotson. You spoke at your press conference last week about how remarkable his performances have been, given all that's on his plate as a true freshman. Tyjon is the example we point to as the last freshman to start, but he had Sharon as a wingman. Devon's doing it with another freshman in Quentin Grimes. So can you speak to just how remarkable he's been and maybe the daily approach he puts in to put himself in position to succeed?
I think Devon is tough, and I think he's fast, and I think those are two great combinations to have. He's competitive, he's tough, and he's fast. So those things will get you a long ways. But you look at it. He's also a guy that has to learn how to be a point guard. And there's a big difference between bringing it up and actually being a point guard and thinking the game and being responsible for what all the four other guys out there are doing, and always understanding time, score, and momentum and things like that. And even though he's making great strides there, he's still young in a lot of those areas. And so I think he's been terrific. But I also know this: I think that we got to stay after it. It's like I would think a freshman quarterback that's having some success and doing some really good things, but he hasn't seen a complicated defense yet, or he hasn't seen maybe people that can make him get a little bit scattered, and how's he going to react in that situation. But for the most part, you're right. Devon's passed with great grades so far, but I still like to see more. Here's an example. Our leading assist guy on our team, this will shock folks, is averaging 2.9 assists a game, and he's 6'9". I mean, that would shock folks. So as good as Devon is getting in there and finding people, there's also some things he can do to learn how to feed the post and things like that to get an easy assist. And so those are the things I'm talking about. Just wait till he gets good and he starts to understand, because his God-given gifts physically are tremendous, and certainly as probably as good as just about anybody in the country has at his age.
That 6'9" assist man Dedrick Lawson, Coach was alluding to there. I love it that the other day I'm walking through the field house heading over to the DeBruce Center, and this is 3 hours before practice, and I'm hearing a bouncing ball, and there's one guy by himself out on James Naismith Court 3 hours before practice putting up shots, and that was Devon Dotson. I know that's not a story unique to him. A lot of guys put in extra time, but the fact that he has that hunger and he's doing it on his own ahead of time, as I tweeted out, that's where the good ones become great, when nobody's watching.
Yeah, and that's true. Now they all have set times that they should come in and shoot on their own. The way that we do our practice, people talk about the NCAA and how they limit your practice to 20 hours a week and all those things. We don't even get up close to 20 hours a week. We might practice, if it's a long week, we may practice 12 hours a week. And then you throw in 3 hours for lifting and whatever. We don't butt up against the 20 at all. So what we do is we set up a couple of days a week where they come in just for 30 minutes and shoot on their own with the coach. But Devon's probably in there as much as anybody. He spends a lot of time in the gym.
Love that hunger, no doubt. All right, we got to talk KU Villanova when we come back, but first let me tell you that Hawk Talk is sponsored by Intrust Bank, a proud supporter of KU Athletics. And if you want to join us, call us up, 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. Hawk Talk is also brought to you by Diagnostic Imaging Centers, centered on you. More coming up from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. Back comes Vic, crosses over, floats, misses, but Lawson on the stick back. He was Johnny on the spot, and finally, KU's back on top. Highlights from Saturday's win, 63-60 over New Mexico State. The team picked to win the WAC. How about Dedrick Lawson? Had some struggles earlier in the game, but got figured out down the stretch. 14 straight points once he really got it going and wheeled his team in his own way to the 63-60 victory there. Your thoughts on how he's coming along?
First of all, I think he's a terrific player. He has great feel. The things that he does is from an intellect and an IQ and a feel standpoint. He doesn't wow you with his explosive jumping and all those things, but he never has. He's always been a guy that's been able to compensate and kind to play to that. I believe this. I think he's had a great start to the season, but I also can look at the first half against New Mexico State. Didn't do much at all, if anything. And then I look at Vermont. He was scoreless, and you look at a lot of things, but then at the end of the day, you look at and he's got 20 and 10, and he scores the last 14 points of a game. So, what that tells me is that we obviously need him in there, but on the flip side, he's got to, and this is one thing and he gets it. I mean, we watch tape, he gets it. He's got to do some more things for us in addition to just getting numbers. You can get numbers sometimes and not play well. You can sometimes not get numbers and play very well. Like Marcus Garrett's never going to get 20 and 10, but we could or probably not get 20 and 10. And we can look at Marcus, and he gets 8.6 rebounds and 4 assists, and we think, God, he played great.
Sure.
You know, but with Diedrich, we need him to get 25 and 12.
Yeah.
And that's what especially with Doak out. And so I'm looking for him as well as he's done. I still think there's another gear he can go to get us that extra because you know, he just has a knack for getting the ball in the basket, and he's got a knack for rebounding the ball.
Dan in our listening audience had a Diedrich-specific question. He said, will you be able to get him to maybe attack the rim more aggressively and dunk the finishes to his shots as opposed to little touch bank shots that sometimes are missed?
Probably not. But it doesn't have anything to do with him not wanting to. It has something to do with physically what he does. What he does. I mean, it's not like Doak, or it's not like Markieff Morris or you know, Tariq Black, guys that were just so bouncy and explosive where they could make plays like that. That's not who he is. And so, you know, if that's what people want to play to, him playing above the rim, that's not what you're going to get. But what you're going to get is a guy that really knows how to play and has great feel and a tremendous passer. But I really think this. He hadn't shot you know, he's 2 for 13 on the year from 3. Charlie is 3 of 22. That's 5 of 35. Okay, I'm not great at math, but I think that's about 12.5% combined, if something like that. Okay, 1 for 7, maybe it's 14. Not, maybe 14%. Okay, so obviously I told you I wasn't very good. But those guys are both 35 to 40% 3-point shooters. So that'll be I think, you know, people may disagree. I think Diedrich needs to shoot more threes. If anything, you know, to space the defense and to give us a little bit more of an arsenal offensively. So I can see, you know, in our first 2 exhibition games, if I'm not mistaken, I could be off, but I think 6 of 8 from 3 in the first 2, 3 of 3 one game, and then like 3 of 5 the next game. It was something like that. It was something close to that. So you stop and think like that. Well, if he, you know, he's not a 75% 3-point shooter, but he's certainly capable of making 3 or 4 in a game, and you know, we haven't had that offensively yet from him. So I think we'll get better offensively when guys, you know, are a little bit more confident and line up and knock them down.
Well said. Don't sell yourself short, by the way. Aren't you in the Academic Hall of Fame at Oklahoma State?
No.
Distinguished graduate?
Yeah, you know, I hate to say this. You had to have a CUME 2.5 to be a distinguished graduate. so, and I was right on the nose. So 2.50. So, yeah, that is true. But it had nothing to do with academic prowess, I can promise you.
Very good. Well, let's talk about Kansas-Villanova. Everybody wants to talk rematch of the Final Four, but these are obviously 2 very, very different teams. But 2 tradition-rich programs with terrific head coaches, 1 electric atmosphere coming up on Saturday inside Allen Fieldhouse. Give us the early scouting report on the Wildcats, who are playing as we speak versus Penn.
Yeah, and, you know, this is a hard game. Penn, an inner-city game, you know, part of the Big Five. And we saw how good Penn was last year. I don't know if people remember. They had us down like 12 in the first half or whatever. And, you know, the head coach was really very nervous playing a 16 seed. So they've got a good team. Jay's team is totally different. And to me, and I can't speak for another coach, but to me, they're trying to find themselves a little bit like we are. Now they had Michigan and Furman got them early in the season. This is a different team than when Michigan and Furman got them. And they go down to Orlando. I don't know if fans remember when we went down to Orlando a few years ago and played Tennessee and I can't remember who the Rhode Island and Michigan State back to back in that tournament. Well, they had 3 very impressive wins, very similar to that, you know, a couple of weeks ago. And so they're on an uptick big time. But you know, the last game they played, this is hard to believe. You guys, I know you remember last year that they actually shot and made a lot of threes against us. Okay. Last game they played against St. Joe's, they scored 70 points. So it's not a high-scoring game.
Right.
They shot 43 threes. Wow, 43. So when you stop and think about it, what have we really not done great so far is probably defend the arc as well as what we can. So there's a lot of things that they do that is different and really dangerous towards us. And so, and they're so, Jay's teams are always going to be tough and physical. So, but yeah, they're good and getting ready to be a lot better. They're just young like we are in some spots.
Booth, Pascal, Gillespie, some of the names fans might remember from a year ago.
Well, Pascal, he's 4 or 5 from 3 and had 24.
Right.
And then Booth had a nice game against us. Hey, I don't think he was one of their leading scorers, but he had a nice game against us. And Gillespie is a tough little guy that came off the bench to back up Brunson, but who wouldn't back up the National Player of the Year? So so they've got some nice pieces, and they're long and interchangeable parts, but they're going to have 5 guys out there all the time to shoot threes, and so that's definitely different. And then they get you spread, and now can you guard the ball, and your ball screen, middle ball screen becomes such a big deal, and they're really good at that.
We'll talk further Keys versus Villanova in just a second, but let's close down this segment by spinning the wheel. Who wants to spin the wheel here tonight? It's our new feature on Hawk Talk. Coach has questions recorded from former players of his. We've got players from the Ted Owens era, the Roy Williams era. We've got current players. We've got basketball celebrities. I use that term loosely because they're broadcasters, but all kinds of good names on here. Okay. And any particular spot on the wheel you hope it lands on?
No.
I've told you the Billis question's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'll let you give it a spin.
Right now?
Right now. And Coach's choice. I just asked, is there a spot on the wheel you want?
Give me Billis's question then.
Okay.
You said it was good.
All right, here's Jay Billis, everybody.
Hey, Coach Self, this is Jay Billis. I was wondering, since you and I are about the same age and you look a lot older, I was a big Brady Bunch fan growing up. What did you watch on television as a kid?
Well, I think that I am a year older than Jay.
Okay.
But as a kid, I watched the Brady Bunch. I watched the Partridge Family. I watched Happy Days every Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Nice.
Laverne and Shirley obviously was a popular hit in the Self household. But I think that primarily that, and then every Saturday, and you probably did the same thing. Back then, of course, there's no cable. So you would get one baseball game a week, and every Saturday in the summer was the NBC game of the week with Tony Kubek was usually doing the color, and Joe Garagiola was the play-by-play guy, if I'm not mistaken. That was probably what I watched as much as anything was those sitcoms.
Very good. That was a great list he gave us. How about that? Did you have a childhood crush on Marcia or anything like that?
I don't think so. I don't remember that. But if I was going to pick one of the 3, I would take Marcia, though, if I could pick one of the 3.
Of course, Cindy's your top pick. Cindy, don't you think Coach looks a lot younger than Jay Billis? Most definitely, she says.
Yeah, people, I'm without getting into it too much, Jay he doesn't really sell himself as this. He was a really good player at Duke. I think he started 3 or 4 years there, and was part of that team that beat us in Dallas in 1986 at the Final Four when Archie hurt his knee and Danny fouled out late. So, but we were still right there to win that game. But yeah, we've had some good rivalries with the Dukies, and certainly. It's Jay enjoys being a part of that, especially giving guys, past KU players, a lot of crap whenever he comes down here.
He's great. Truly one of the best in the business. And if you check out the original rules of basketball in the DeBruce Center, we've got quotes from all these Jayhawk icons on the wall opposite of the rules. There's one Duke guy, because he's such a great ambassador for our sport, and that's Jay Billis. And his quote is something along the lines, if I can paraphrase, of all the roads in college basketball lead back to Lawrence, the cathedral of college basketball, no place like it. And to hear a guy that played at Cameron Indoor say that about Allen Fieldhouse obviously is post-worthy to put on the wall up there at the DeBruce Center.
But he's also very politically correct. If you go to Duke, he said the same damn thing at Cameron Indoor, I'm sure.
Very good. We'll wrap up the show, get some keys to a Jayhawk victory from Coach when we come back on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
When we were caregiving for Grandma and Grandpa in their room, they wanted a certain temperature, and you could regulate and keep their temperature in that room instead of all of us sweating bullets in the house.
Kate's servicemen really understood our needs. We spoke to them about the grandparents' room. They wanted that one room very, very warm, and they were able to accomplish that. We know when we walk in the door, the temperature's going to be right where we like it. So it's been wonderful having Kate's heating and cooling. We love it.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
It's payday! It's payday! It's payday!
Your dreams are waiting, so play Lucky for Life from the Kansas Lottery, and you could win $1,000 a day every day for the rest of your life.
It's payday! It's payday!
$57 Diedrich wants a three. He'll get a three. Diedrich Lawson with just his second three-ball of the year, and it couldn't come at a better time.
Right after I said he's not been great from beyond the arc, he knocks one down.
It previously was 1 of 12, and then he nails that one.
That was a
Diedrich
big one.
Lawson. That was huge.
That was a big one.
He finishes with 20 and 10, and the Jayhawks win at 63.
Was that a tie game whenever that put us up 3?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It was 57 all, I think.
Yeah, so.
Yep. The temperature is dropping, but the Jayhawks are heating up. Cheer louder and watch longer with an unfiltered wheat beer. Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. Hawk Talk is brought to you by Jana King, the official cleaning partner of Kansas Athletics. All right, time for one more audience question real quickly here. Debbie wants to know, when your granddaughter visits, do you have grandpa and granddaughter time? And when she's back home in Dallas, do you FaceTime with her?
Have FaceTimed quite a bit with Ella, with her mother holding the phone and her doing whatever she's doing and not having a clue who's on the other end probably. But she's getting aware enough where she, wave and blow kisses and stuff. So it's really cute. Yeah, she's doing great. I haven't been around with her enough alone. Because there's a serious problem with selfishness within our family on wanting to spend as much time with her as possible and not sharing. So I haven't had a lot of alone time with her, but the little bit that I have, obviously I love. But she's doing terrific.
It's like Grandpa pushing the stroller on the streets of New York. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, she's great. She just turned 1 last week, and so yeah, it's a great time.
Happy birthday, Ella! All right, real quickly, we talked about defending the perimeter. Other keys to a win on Saturday.
I think rebounding the ball, long shots, long rebounds, as much as anything, and they switch so much, and they're so physical off their switches. We need to drive straight lines in order to force help. But those would be things that I know that'll be very important to winning.
All right, Coach. Best of luck to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
We'll go with Sue as our top question of the night. She had the, in one word, describe the team at this juncture question. Congratulations, Sue. You win a 2-night stay at the Oriad Hotel. That'll do it for Hawk Talk this week. For Steve Kincaid, Bob Newton, Alex Birch, and all of us out here at Johnny's Tavern West Lawrence, I'm Brian Haney saying good night. We will see you on Saturday. The Jayhawks and the Wildcats of Villanova, 11 a.m. at Allen Fieldhouse.
You've been listening to Hawk Talk with Bill Self on the Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. Tune in each week to get the latest on Jayhawk basketball from the head coach, Bill Self. Tonight's edition of Hawk Talk has been presented by Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. Capital Federal Savings, celebrating 125 years. By Johnny's Tavern, serving up tradition since 1953 in Lawrence and Kansas City area. And by Intrust Bank, proud supporter of Kansas athletics. Hawk Talk with Bill Self is an exclusive presentation of IMG, America's home for college sports.